Warren's got a new enemy. Papa's got a brand new bag. Yeah, I was very disappointed because of all the Saudi stuff. Warren and Hearn, Eddie Hearn, the old enemy, if you like, or I suppose Barry Hearn would be the old enemy. They're making nice. They're happy. They're working together. It's a bit sickening, really. I'm not entirely happy about it. But we were worried that we'd not see the kind of bitter, nasty, violent Frank Warren anymore. And I've mentioned it to him in interviews as well. Now he feels this needs kind of be a bit nicer about Eddie Hearn, even on the subjects that they've criticised each other about in the past. It's the same on Hearn's side. But all we needed to do, apparently, was to interview Alex Krassyuk, which was actually easier said than done, but we got there in the end, and have him say some stuff that really, really pissed off Frank Warren. Because after Alex Krassyuk, I did the interview with him last week, and he said, and we'll talk about this in more detail, but he said he doesn't believe the cut sustained by Tyson Fury that forced the postponement of the undisputed fight with Oleksandr Usyk was sustained in the sparring session that's gone round on video for everyone to see. He feels it happened earlier, and the Fury team were kind of putting their ducks in a row, getting their story straight before they released this news to the media. Doesn't doubt the legitimacy of the cut, just when it happened and whether that video represents it. But when my colleague here, Eamon Khan, tried to present this point of view impartially, because, bias out and all that, tried to present that view to Frank Warren, he barely got to the end of his sentence before Frank almost bit his head off, although I believe he was biting off Alex Krassyuk's head and Adam Catterall's, who we didn't even mention. But Eamon was, by proxy, in the firing line. And, were you surprised? I mean, I imagine you were delighted as well because of the content, but were you surprised by the virulence of Frank Warren's response?
Yeah, everyone always says delighted to be joined by. Maybe in that moment I wasn't quite as delighted to be joined by Frank, but I understood that there was going to be some form of reaction from Frank. Obviously, essentially the point is there that there isn't the legitimacy to what the video was. There isn't legitimacy of what the cut was. There isn't the legitimacy of the bottom line as to Tyson Fury pulling out. That's not how we feel it or see it is here. We kind of see it as a face value and the cut is legitimate and such, but they have their point of view, Krasyuk's team. We put that to Frank to see how he felt about it. And naturally, the position from Frank is going to be to defend his man's place. And I know that sometimes Tyson Fury is vocal. Sometimes he's not so much vocal. I think he employed a social media blackout, and that seems to have extended heading into this new rescheduled date. So Tyson Fury himself, we haven't heard too much from, although he has done a couple of social media posts here and there on it. So it leaves Frank to have to battle, and Frank is always going to back his man. Frank has no other reason as to doubt as to why the cut happens. And also, look, the bottom line to it as well, like Tyson Fury wants this fight. Frank Warren wants this fight. They've promised a date. They can't quite meet it, and it's been rescheduled. Everything has happened as quick and as fast as possible there, but it was a bit funny when it came to Frank saying idiots feeding idiots. So I don't know if it means us or me holding the mic being the idiot in that moment.
Eating it up. We're the ones
that's right.
Fed.
It might have been a one step closer if I pushed it a little bit more to me being the target of the vitriol, as he said that. But no, I think, Frank has his position to protect his client and his clients, because looking at this as a whole, Fury was kind of the darling now, coming back from when he had the time out of the ring, when he ballooned up in weight, come back. He was the darling of the boxing fans, and he's lost a lot of that shine now with a lot of the stuff he says. And sometimes when these sort of things happen, because Fury has said this and then changed his mind instantly and said that, and I know he's playing for the headlines, and I get it, he's savvy in that sort of sense, but for boxing fans, it turns people off. So it means that they doubt what he says or what can come out from him. It means that Frank Warren has to really kind of push back on it, and that's what we got. That's what I got.
And just before we go to the chat for the first time in today's episode, we are going to put the poll out. We're going to get it out nice and early, and it's a very simple one. It's a binary choice, yes or no. Do you think Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk happens as planned in the second instance on May the 18th? Yes or no? Let's see how much skepticism remains among the public boxing fandom at large. So let's go to the chat, and there's a absolute load of them already. So I'll do the job of Thunder Road and say, We've got 130 watching right now. Make sure you give us a thumbs up so that the popularity reflects the amount of people watching, assuming you do all like it, obviously. Cumry Carper Neil says, why is it that no other fighter gives Frank Warren the same problems as Fury does? I imagine it's kind of with any superstar in any walk of life, isn't it? You know, the more famous you are, the more diva-like you become, I guess. And the more ripples your behaviour causes as well, not always intentionally. Who else have we got here? Ramoni Mode XD, he's a true fighting man. Presumably he's talking about Eamon there. Ryan Walterson, about to see Warren try to bully Krassyuk to his agenda. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Krassyuk, I don't know if Krassyuk's for turning, to be honest. I think he's quite tough in his own right. You might not see as much vitriol from him in interviews, but I think he's got a steely inner core. Ramoni Mode XD talking about Prince Nassim. Thunder Road. I spoke too soon. He is here. What's he said? Thunder Road. Damn, already 125 plus watch. It's 143 now, Thunder Road. Says, let's hit that thumbs up in caps. OG God. Surely there's only one God, and he is the OG. Never mind. We're not here for religion. I wonder what Warren will say when Fury backs out again. Well, I hope you voted in the poll, OG God. If you think Fury is going to back out, I hope you voted no to whether it happens on May the 18th. Matty Howard, not hard to piss off Frank Angry Warren. It's been a while, though. He's mellowing in his older age. And getting on now with Eddie Hearn, I think, we thought he'd been put out to pasture this angry side for a while. Feed the Bear says, Matty. Oh, no, he's talking to Matty. Talk to us, guys. Don't just talk to each other. Chris, we hear Fury and Warren are on the rocks. Yeah, there has been some rumours going around that there's some issues between Team Fury and Frank Warren. So we could talk about that a little bit more. Eamon was obviously at the Warren show over the weekend, so maybe he's heard more than me. I don't know. Sultan Ibragimov says, is May the 18th date a placeholder just to stop the IBF WBA playing hardball and calling it mandatory? But when it comes to it, it'll get rescheduled again. It's interesting because from what Krassyuk was saying, the IBF will not do a further extension beyond May the 18th. So I think he'll be very much looking, because Turki Al Sheikh's obviously made that declaration that if either fighter pulls out, not only will they have to pay a forfeit, but a replacement opponent for either guy, whoever's left standing, will be made. I think Krassyuk will be pushing for that if Fury was the one to pull out again. Sultan Ibragimov says Frank's chosen the questions. I'm not sure he's talking about us there, but it's certainly not true. George Hearn, is Warren and Krassyuk attending this live? No, they're not, George Hearn. We've made no such claim. SO Live's here every week. We've been doing this for quite a long time now. We are a discussion show. We do occasionally have guests on, but certainly not Warren and Krassyuk this time around. Chris says, OG means original gangster, Danny. Low like Frank Warren. Yeah, or maybe Frank Warren is the OG God. But OG, maybe he's in our chat right now. So maybe I'm wrong. Whoever I spoke to previously and said they're not on the show. Maybe Frank Warren is on the show. We just don't know it's him. Maybe he's under an alias. Ambient Wanderer says, boxing is heading in the right direction right now with Eddie and Frank working together to make these fights happen. I couldn't agree more, but I like to see a bit of spice. I like to see a bit of bite. And if they're not providing it in the fighters, then I like to see the promoters kind of going back and forth. So I'm glad Krassyuk and Warren seem to be getting it on a little bit. Ramoni Mode XD, Usyk asked for the 10 million pullout clauses. Usyk manager said in an interview. It's actually Usyk's trainer, Sergei Lapin, who asked for the $10 million forfeit clause. Usyk's manager did say it in an interview. It was my interview. It was Sergei Lapin. And that's why they call it the Lapin clause. Because he's the guy who trains and manages Usyk's training camp. Matty Howard, Danny, what do you think? Fury turn up or not? I don't think he pulls out again, truthfully. I would vote yes in the poll. It does happen on May the 18th, but you never know. Theo Adamson, a Warren and Krassyuk coming on here. I feel like we're getting trolled now. Anyone who watches SO Live on a regular basis, or even Seconds Out as a channel, knows that we do this every week, and we don't have fighters or promoters on here as guests. It's a podcast format. But yeah, they're not coming on. A bit of clickbait, says George Hearn, although he's misspelt my name, so it automatically renders anything he says as nonsense. And I'm sure George Hearn's not his real name either. Newsflash. But yeah, so that's it from the chat for the minute. But yeah, just to reiterate, we are not expecting Alex Krassyuk or Frank Warren to actually appear live on this edition of SO Live. So I hope that hasn't disappointed too many of you. Please do stick around. But yeah, Eamon, you were at the Warren show. at the weekend. Obviously, great win for Hamza Shiraz, which we'll talk about in due course. But did you get any sort of inkling of any issues between the Warren team and the Fury team beyond him kind of almost biting your head off at the question of the fight and the cut?
No, nothing at all. I know that it was asked if there was any friction between Fury and Warren. And Warren had batted it off. He said, has this come from Igis Klimas, who said that Fury had done himself over with a frying pan to get the cut? So he bashed, he completely brushed it off, and he literally said, next question after that. So no, it was kind of the first kind of murmurings I'd heard of anything at all between, some sort of rift between the two. It must have flown over my head if there was any talk about that. But no, there was no discussions between media either as well during the time as to whether there was any rift between Fury and Warren. So it'd be the first I'd heard as well too. So no, I don't put any stock in any rift between Fury and Warren as of right now. But I imagine, look, if there is anything to do with that, it might be exacerbated with the likes of TalkSport and such. Who I know that Frank was very unhappy with TalkSport and Adam Catchell specifically, as he mentioned, with TalkSport doubting putting it across their airwaves the legitimacy of Fury's injury in the wake of it. I know that everyone was up in arms and had the discussions at the time, as we had the discussion as well too. But I think Fury really kind of went in and really pushed against Tyson Fury and it being not legitimate. So I think Frank was very much unhappy with that. And I know that Fury has been unhappy with TalkSport as well too. But I think they're both sort of on the same sort of sides with that. Although I believe TalkSport appear at the Queensberry shows, but not so much at Fury shows, because Fury doesn't want them there at current. But no rift between those, but not any rift between Fury and Warren.